The Recovery: Life After Heartbreak. I am your host, Vivian Bell, and I have my co host with me today, my mom, Everjuniel. Mom, say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody.
Well, this podcast is entitled "The Recovery: Love After Heartbreak," because I wanted to share me and my mom's story, but not just to share our story, but hopefully to help other people be able to mend family relationships, be able to just be whole after certain things happen. I totally know that there are times when reconciliation is not possible, but I do know that it's possible. And so we're going to just talk to you guys about love. Often love is talked about in just like a romantic relational type thing, but there are so many different ways you can get heartbreak, but there is not one heartbreak that exists on this earth that God cannot heal and fix and restore or recover. So here we are
Amen.
at the talking
Amen.
about love after heartbreak. So today's title is the truth about love. That is the title of today's podcast, the truth about love. And again, the love is not just a romantic type thing. You have the love of parents and siblings and friends and cousins and coworkers and all of those different things. But very often do we talk about how to actually overcome the heartbreak in relational type things. So one of the things I want to ask you first, Mom, is like first of all, how are you? I had a question, but I felt like I'm supposed to ask you a different question. How do you feel about what God has done for our friendship and relationship?
I feel wonderful. God is awesome. He can fix and repair anything. And our love is so strong. And it's only through God that these things are possible.
Amen. Amen. You know, one of the things that came to my mind when I was preparing for the podcast, because for those of you who are watching or listening, if you're listening on a platform where you don't have video, is what was I getting ready to say? I lost my thought. But anyways, if you can't, if you're just listening, one of the big things for me in reference to this podcast. Oh, I know I was going to say we're not scripted. So if you're not seeing it, you need to know that like nothing about the podcast is scripted at all. We're just here to talk real raw about relationships, about love, about that kind of thing. One of the things that came to me that I feel like I really discovered, I knew it, but like I really felt like it just helped me in our reconciliation of our relationship is to remember that we have to be able to try to understand another person's side. Like sometimes things happen that can be disappointing or heartbreaking on either side of a relationship. So we're talking about a child and a parent relationship, but sometimes there are things that we can judge the other side and not really show grace because maybe we don't understand, or we had this thought or this idea about how life was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that negates like if one of us make a mistake or hurt the other person that we shouldn't be responsible and say, hey, I did this, I made these choices. But at the end of the day too, I think sometimes we forget to try to understand the other side. What's your thoughts about that?
That's true because sometimes we miss things and we don't know. We think we know we have the right answer, but we're not sure. And then when you go to talking about things, then things come out. Oh, well, I didn't know that. I didn't, somebody else's feeling. So, yeah, that's what we have to do.
Yes, ma'am, for sure. Grace is definitely important. One of the things I teach people as a counselor and a coach is that to get an understanding and try to understand why. Now, some things you'll never understand because some people just,
Yes,
I want okay, this is what I tell my kids. I said, sometimes you spend time trying to figure out foolishness, but you'll never really understand foolishness unless you're a fool. So
that's right.
sometimes we have to walk away from stuff and try not to understand why people did things because sometimes we may never know or never understand. But I believe that the key is communication. I think that after we had that space and time, like years, so we actually
Mm-hmm.
literally didn't talk to each other, we were
Mm-hmm.
able to come back and say, okay, you know what, let's just talk about it. Let's just
Right,
be honest. Like certain things
right.
happen, and then let's talk about it. I remember we were on a phone call. I remember because I was driving and you had said like, well, if I did that, and I was like, no, like that actually happened. Let's just like talk about it. Like this is what really happened. Like if you're gonna, bring it up,
Hmm.
let's talk about it. And like you didn't run from that. You didn't say like, okay, well, don't say that to me because I'm your mama, or don't talk to me that way
Right,
because I'm your mama. You just
right,
was like, okay, well, yeah, you're right, that did happen, but this is how I looked at it, and maybe I was like in denial about this a little bit, or maybe I just made this choice because this happened to me, and so I didn't
right,
really know how to handle it. But if we hadn't actually been able to communicate and talk about it, then I could have just gone my whole life and felt like, okay, my mom just hates me, or my mom just didn't listen to me, or she just didn't care
right,
about me. But the truth wasn't that you didn't care about me. The truth was is that you were still dealing with some things that happened to you that were similar to what was happening to me, and you didn't know how to deal with it. You didn't know what to do with it. And so even though like I can look at that and feel like, okay, well that hurt me, but I still had to be able to be grown enough to say, yes, that hurt me, but what was my mom's intentions? Like what was
right,
really her heart behind it? And so then
right.
after I was able to hear her heart behind it, then it was like, okay, yeah, that did hurt, but at the end of the day, I can understand it. So it might
Yes,
not take away the hurt, but it heals it heals
yeah,
because then
yeah.
like I understand what's happening. I
Right.
understood why you made that choice, or you
That's
didn't,
right.
address it you or whatever,
Right.
because now I have understanding. So love is definitely one of the things I think is important. Like nothing about love is perfect, and which
Mm-hmm.
means like we can't expect someone just because they love us to be perfect because none of us are
That's right.
perfect,
That's
and
right.
we all. I feel like we all live based on the things we saw or the things that may have happened to us growing up or
Exactly.
what we were taught growing up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and sometimes it's things that we act because we don't know. We weren't taught. We don't know. Because when I was coming up in my time frame, older people hid things, so you didn't know. You didn't know how to respond to things, and you didn't. Everything was hid. So then, when it happens to you, you don't know how to react or what to do. So sometimes you do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing.
Right, because you just winging it. Like I remember telling your grandkids, like especially your grandson, because he is. Both my kids are me. I feel like in different stages of my life,
Yes.
and I see that little grin on your face because you're like, yeah, that boy is definitely yours.
Mhm.
But I had to tell him. I said, listen, son, you did not come out the womb with a handbook attached to the umbilical cord.
I
I
know
need
you're
some
right.
grace too.
Yes,
I
yes,
said,
lots.
listen, I need some grace too. Yeah, and I was just honest with them. I was like, I need grace too. I don't know how to do this part. Like, I just don't know how to do this part. I don't know how to not respond in a certain way. Like,
Right,
and then I had to be honest with my kids too, because like we're people of faith and we're Christians, and we teach our kids about faith. But then sometimes we forget that it's okay to show them that we're scared, or maybe I have a moment where I
right.
don't really believe, or
That's
maybe
right.
my response is from a place of fear. So I do believe God, but I'm afraid. I'm still afraid. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying?
Like, yes, I
And like,
do.
especially, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say yes, I do, because you can have so much fear, and then so fear makes you act the wrong way or say the wrong thing because you just scared and you don't know what to do. So sometimes we do nothing, and then sometimes we say or do the wrong thing.
Yes, ma'am, for sure. And that's one of the things like I try to teach my kids is that like first of all I'm not perfect. And then like for the longest like I had this fear of like letting my kids down, like not being good enough, not being able to take care of my kids. I had all these fears, right? And then one day I feel like the Lord said to me, he was like, I'm the only one that's perfect. He goes, but when you fail or you falter, you fall in my hands, and you're teaching
That's
your
right.
kids how to fall in my hands, how to
Mm-hmm.
accept my grace when they make mistakes, how to
Mm-hmm.
own they stuff when they make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it's hard as a parent to say to your kid, like, okay, all right, well, I was wrong and you were right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but I think that comes from that old school mentality of like you don't question your parents, you don't, you are seen and not heard. You just, don't get in grown folk conversations, or if
That's
an
it.
adult is telling you something, and they can be wrong, or another adult can be lying on you, but it was like you don't say anything to that
No.
adult, and
Mm-mm.
it's it's funny because I laugh sometimes. I remember telling Chris when he was younger, I was like, "Boy, if you weren't just like your mama, I'd take your life." Because I remember like just questioning things and like standing up about certain things. And I
Mm-mm.
told someone recently, I said, I was telling him something I did. I said, and my mama said she would just go in the room and pray my daddy didn't kill me.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
But I think it was important that even though like it was a little rougher road for me to be able to like speak up and say things and say like, hey, I don't agree with that, or I don't really think that's what the Bible meant by that, or I don't agree with, like I think that's stupid. Like I remember saying that, and I remember it so much because my son
Yes,
says it to me all the time, and
yes,
especially
Lord.
when he was younger. You saying
Hmm.
yes, Lord, like you having a flashback.
Yes, because I remember when you used to say, "You, I never say that. I never say that." And now things that you say, you never say, you say.
Listen, because see, that's the thing. Like you think you understand, and that goes back to like the communication and really having an understanding. That means having all of the information. So you think like I wouldn't tell. I'm never gonna tell my kids I'll take their life until I literally was telling my son like, listen, you have a choice. You can make a choice today. You can either go see Jesus personally, or you can stay here with us. But the choice
Exactly.
is yours.
Exactly.
But it was the exact same thing. I was letting him know I will take your life. I even
Yeah,
said to him once, I said, listen, church is the best place for you to die. And he was like, what? Because he was cutting up in church, mom. He was just acting up. I said, listen, I can kill you right here in church. I know that some people are probably going to text me, don't do it because I never did anything to hurt my kids. But I needed to let him know that, hey, I was a single mom. I needed to let this boy know I'm a little bit crazy so he didn't try me. But I
that's
said,
right.
listen, boy, I said, church is the best place for you to die. I said, I will lay your body on a communion table, let everybody come down in the processional. I will call a coroner and the police in one phone call.
Yes,
And,
Lord.
and so then
Ah,
he said, I need just talk time. And so for those of you who've not heard my other podcast, which is She Who Believes, I've shared with you guys there about just talk time, which is where my kids are allowed to, excuse me, say, hey, I need just talk time. And so what
mhm.
just talk time means is that they can tell me anything and I'm not going to yell, punish, scream, whatever. Now, the only thing I did tell them, I said, I do reserve the right to whip you later if you burn somebody's house down.
I know
Anything
you.
short of burning somebody's anything, anything short of burning somebody's house down, I'll listen. So after he asked for just talk time, he said, "Listen, sometimes, lady, I think you're sick in the head." And so I remember saying to him, "Mom, I said, sweetie, I am, and if you remember that, you'll live longer."
I know that's right. I know that's right.
But then that's just the things where you think like, "Hey, I'll never say that to my kids," until you raising kids and you're like, "Listen,
That's right. It's a
I
difference.
I've done." It's a whole different ball game because you're like, "Listen, I'm gonna raise you right. You're gonna love Jesus. You
Yes.
go." I think Priscilla Shire said she told her three boys, you're gonna she gave them different things. She said you're gonna love Jesus. It was like three different things. You're gonna love Jesus, obey me, something else, or I'll take your life.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Them your three things. If you do those three things, you
That's it.
live,
Yes,
kind of thing.
Lord.
But again, you can look at things from a child's perspective, not really knowing what your parents know. And then
Right.
also too, I think it's that it's important that we don't ever, even though it's difficult because that's just a part of our society, but that we don't compare our families to
Right.
someone else's family. Like I
Exactly.
think that's super
Exactly.
important. And being
Mm-hmm.
grateful for the things we have. Like sometimes like it's with the just of the world. It's been that way though, even since I was a young girl. It was the looking at, well, that their life looks better than mine, or their life looks perfect
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
not being, but you don't know. And I remember saying to dad once, because so first of all, I want to say thank you, and to you, to dad, for the way y'all raised us, for giving us a great place to live and a home, even when I know it was hard, and I know for certain it was hard now because I am a single mom. I had to move sometimes. I remember thinking, why do we have to move again?
Yes.
But life happens, things happen.
Yes.
But I can say that we've never had to live in the projects, and I'm not knocking anybody who lives in the projects, don't get me wrong. But what I'm
Right.
saying is that my parents, they worked really hard. Sometimes my dad worked three jobs. My mom, they both at least always worked two jobs. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for taking care of us, for raising us, for leading us to Jesus, for just just loving us the best way y'all knew how. Because as I've grown up and found out about y'all's backgrounds and stories, and then y'all got married really young. You were
Yes.
17, daddy
Lord.
was 19. You were still
Yes.
in high school. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you graduated, you're getting ready to have your first child, and really,
Yes.
you were still a kid yourself, trying to be a wife and have a husband and take care of
Right.
kids and manage a household and all those
Yeah.
things, and you stayed. And I
Yeah.
thank you for that because I'm a daddy's girl, but I have told him several times, like, listen, so we're being transparent here in this podcast. And so as you grow up and you get older, you start to see things that you didn't see and that you didn't notice. And if
Yes.
anybody knows me, up until 26 years ago when my daughter took my spot, which I gracefully gave over to her, I was daddy's girl, hands down. I ain't care
Mm-hmm.
what my daddy did. I love my mama too, but I was riding for my daddy.
Yes. Lord.
But I have
Yes.
since I'm saying to him, listen, if you were my husband, I might have ground some glass up in your food.
Yes.
And so I thank you for staying because like you could have made excuses and reasons why you didn't stay. You could have justifiably left my daddy plenty of
Right.
times because he was just
Yes.
special.
Yes.
But you didn't, and you stayed, and you showed us what it was like to stay and still love someone, even when sometimes you didn't get what you gave back. You understand?
Right.
And so
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for that and honor you for that. And those who have listened to my other podcasts, like my mama listened to my podcast, so the things I've shared there is no secret to my mom. I've talked
Right.
about how we've gone through and had hard times and that kind of thing. And so, just so y'all know, don't ever jump in these comments saying anything about my mama because that's not what you want to do.
I, right.
Because I still love my mama even when we didn't speak. And I have relatives who can attest to that who reached out to me and thought that they were going to get in the midst of what they thought they knew about what was going on between me and my mama, and I shut it down real quick to let them know that
Mm-hmm.
I have never
Yes.
disrespected my parents and I did not plan
Yes.
on doing so in a conversation with them, and that they needed to
Yes.
let that thing go. So I just
Yes.
wanted to put that out there as well. Because we're going
Yes.
to share some things that, sometimes people and social media in the world can be really rude or crude and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Queen.
I don't mind giving disclaimers. My disclaimer is if you don't like anything we say or you don't like something that I shared about my mom or something she shares about me, then just find another podcast to listen to.
I know that.
Because we don't need to want the comments. Our purpose here is to help people heal and to be able
Yes.
to restore relationships. And even if your relationship can't be restored to the place where like you have a good relationship like me and my mom does now, you can still be able to be whole enough to live your life without having to carry the burden of unforgiveness in your
That's
heart.
right.
And
That's
that's
right.
really our purpose of
Purpose.
this
Yes.
podcast. So
Yes, it is.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The thing about love too is resilient. Like
Mm.
God's been talking to me about being resilient and building a resilient life. And
Yes.
that's how come God can be so faithful to us because his love is resilient. Because if we really think about God and like the things he watches us do, or
Mm.
the times he tells us to do something and we do something opposite, he hasn't changed his mind about us and he doesn't stop loving us because of that.
No.
Now, sometimes he have to step back like we have to do our kids and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna have
Yes.
to let you figure that out.
Mm.
But he loves us and still delights in blessing us and wants to bless us and doesn't want anyone to perish. He wants us to be saved. But
Yes.
love is resilient. But the only
Mm.
way you find out that something is resilient is that you got to go through some things.
That's right. That's right.
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. I remember a couple years back, probably about 10 years ago now, I was writing a book that I have not finished called Unconditional Love. And the definition that God gave me was um, unconditional love is a love that, how did he say it to me? How you know that a love is unconditional is when it has been tested by every condition, yet it still
That's
remains.
right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that it's tested by every condition but still remains. But some people think that unconditional love, and I want to clarify this very much, means that they accept things that they shouldn't accept, like
No.
whether it's physical
Mm-mm.
abuse, verbal abuse,
No.
any of those things. You don't have to accept that, and you don't have to
No.
accept that from the opposite sex. You don't have to accept that in a marriage relationship. You don't even have to accept that in a parent-child relationship
That's right.
because
That's right.
if I was disrespecting my mom, I would want my mom to love herself enough to say, listen, you're my child. I love you, but you're not going to disrespect me. I won't
That's
let you
right.
talk to me that way.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to me in a certain way. And I've even
Mm-hmm.
said it in the past when my mom were going back and forth or, or having disagreements, I would just say like, hey, like, I don't like, I'm just not going to talk because I can't, I don't have to like accept mom yelling or fussing or whatever. And we've all done that because we're human, and sometimes
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we bigger talkers than listeners. So,
Yeah.
one's talking, and so our family's really loud, and we talk, and sometimes
Yes.
all five of us is talking at the same time. But sometimes I knew that I needed to be able to step back and say, listen, I'm gonna be quiet, because if this goes
Mhm.
any further, then it's borderline disrespectful, or I may disrespect my mom or my dad. So I'm gonna step out of I'm gonna step out of
Right.
this situation.
Right.
So you have to be willing to love yourself enough to know where your boundaries are, and to be able to
That's
step
right.
out of those things. And I
That's right.
just want to make sure I reiterate that abuse is not love. It doesn't
No.
matter what excuse the person makes, no matter
Mm-mm.
how many times they come back and say, I'm
No.
sorry, how many times they tell you they're never
Mm.
going to do it again. Abuse is not love. And
No.
love for a person will cause you to be able to say, you know what, let me examine myself. Let me see if I'm wrong in a situation, or let me
Mhm.
see what actions I need to correct.
Right.
I had to walk through that when kids became adults, because I
Yeah.
had this misconception, and anybody tell me this, but I had this misconception. Well, I guess people did tell me that, because you know how back in the day you would hear, when a child 18, they grown and that's it, like that's it, they done, they
Mhm.
on their own.
Mhm.
Well, I took that as they would not really need me anymore, or I wouldn't have to mother them. But that's not true. You just have to
Mhm.
learn how to be a parent to adult children now. And it's almost
Oh
like you're
yeah.
starting over,
Yes, it is.
because now they're adults. I can't send you to your room. I can send you to your room, but that ain't really gonna work well for 18, 19-year
Oh
old or 21-year-old to send you to
no.
your room. So I had to, exactly. I had to adjust. Like, I couldn't take his door off the hinges anymore. Like in high school, I took
Oh,
homeboy door off the hinges.
yes, ma'am.
Absolutely took off the off for like 9 months. His friends came over to spend the night. I did not put it back on. They were like, "Where is your door?" He was like, "My mama took it."
Yeah.
And he was like, "But it's fine." He's like, "If you need to change, go to the bathroom." Like, the bathroom was right across the hallway. Like, dude, hey, I got in some trouble. My mama took my door. I don't know when I'm getting it back, kind of thing. But that was high school. I couldn't say to
Yes.
my 21-year-old child, "I'm gonna take my door off the hinges." I mean, I could have, but did I really want the brokenness that might have brought to our relationship?
Right. Exactly.
Because now I would handle him like a child instead of an adult. And
Mm.
that was really, sometimes when we handle people in a way we have a right to handle them, what we're
Mhm.
really telling them is that they're not important to us, and that's not really the
Right.
message we want to get across.
That's right.
Hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not really the message we want to get. So, Mom, what else would you like to share about what the truth about love is?
Well, love can be hard, and you have to, in love, you have to let go. And sometimes we just have to back up, let go. Because even though we love our children, sometimes we have different children. Each child is different. Some it's easy to deal with, some are not. But when it gets to a point that you've done everything you could to try to help them and to encourage them, and you just have to say, Lord, help me to forgive myself, or to know that I'm not accountable, or I don't even know the right word to use. I'm not responsible for how they're behaving, because once they get wrong, they act the way they want to act. So, and people are good to say, well, they ain't getting no home training. No, you be quiet, because you don't know what you're talking about, because you can get all the training you want, but when people get to reach adult age, they do what they want to do. They say what they want to. So sometimes we just have to step back and say, yo, like you said, you guys to back up and say, okay, this is tough love, and I'm gonna let you walk your road, because you got to learn it, by yourselves.
Yes, ma'am. And sometimes it's the hardest thing, but I found out the best thing for me is to stop fussing or yelling, or even trying to talk about it sometimes,
Right?
and talk to God
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah.
And I remember Christopher saying to me once, he said, "Mom, when you said," because we would be going back and forth, and I would say, "You know what, I'm gonna just go talk to God about it." And he came to me one day, he said, "You know, I feel like every time you do that, you want something to happen to me." And I said, "What are you talking about? You know my heart, I would never want anything to happen to you." He was like, "But when you say that, when you get God in it," I say, "Sweetie, God is already in it." I said, "But what I
I
need
know
you to
that's
understand
right.
is that in those," yes, ma'am. I say, in those moments, I realize, Vivian, you're about to go too far. You need to pull
Mm-hmm.
back, and you need to talk to the one who can
Mm-hmm.
change this whole situation. So when I say
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go talk to God about it, or this this is now between you and God, that meant that I was not willing to sacrifice you or our relationship for a moment of me being able to maybe feel good to say something mean or rude back to you. But I'm gonna go
Right.
to God because first of all, I know that you got love the Lord. I know that you belong to the Lord, and I know you hear the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
if you ain't gonna hear, you can ignore me, but you can't ignore God.
that's
So
right.
God will talk to you, show you, He will tell you. And sometimes when I went to go pray to God, God showed me, you need to go apologize because I'm
Mm-hmm.
working in that area. I need you to stay out
Right.
of that. That's not your business, Vivian. Not your business.
Yes.
And so, just remembering to go back and pray, or sometimes stop in the
Mm-hmm.
middle and pray, can really save relationships. Whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
parent and a
Yes.
child, a
Okay.
husband and a wife, or whatever, it can save that relationship. So it's just communicating to God. And I shouldn't say just, like, that's the best communicator, that's the best relationship, because He has control over all things, and
Yes.
He can turn a person's heart if they're willing to let Him
Mm-hmm.
turn it.
Yeah, and we don't always have to say anything. We don't always have to respond. So when someone, whether it's our child or grandchildren, whoever it is, are acting a certain way, I do the same thing. I just walk away and I pray and I say to God, I call their name. I say, Lord, show them mercy, Lord. Have mercy on them. And then don't say anything else because what sometimes it doesn't always, even though we know we're right, it, it's not necessary to always give a reply because it's not going to help. What
Yeah,
are we going to gain out saying what we need to say? Even though what I think is true, and I want to say it, it's not always good to say it. It's just to back up and say, Lord, you have mercy. You handle this situation. You handle it.
yeah. Yes, ma'am. I heard a pastor say once, he said, do you love being right more than you love the person?
Hmm.
Like, that's the question. Like, do
Well,
I want to be right in this situation more than I want you to walk away knowing that I love you? Do I
that's
want you
it.
to know, is that what's most important to me? Because yes, I could be right and you may never tell me I'm right, but it doesn't matter. Does it matter that you tell me I'm right over me saving the
Mm-mm.
relationship? You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so
I
when he
understand.
said that thing really
Yeah.
blessed my spirit for sure.
Yes, Lord.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
was telling the truth. He
Yes,
was telling
ma'am.
the truth. Love always,
Mm-hmm.
love stands front first. You know that's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
first thing to think about. Mm-hmm. Love keep us from
Yes,
killing our
ma'am.
children. People say, "Why you say that?" Yeah, Lord, keep it from killing them. Because sometimes you be like, "Lord, Lord," and it could be our husband too. Because say, "Lord," I be saying, "Thank you, Lord, thank you."
Yes, ma'am. Oh my goodness. I was gonna say something to that, but I think this made me laugh because I understand it deep down in my soul. It really, really do. It really helps you keep from taking their lives, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
just walking away, being like, "Listen, I can't do this no more. I'm done."
Yes, Lord.
But that love, it keeps you there, and you just like, Jesus bless them. Just bless
Yes,
them. Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Oh,
Lord.
say something else, but that thing ticked me so bad. I lost my thought. Oh goodness, I lost my thought. Yes, Lord. But I know what I was gonna say. When you were saying love is front and center, I remember telling my kids, telling your grandchildren, especially your grandson, because again, I'm a single mom. I didn't have a husband in the house or man in the house or anything like that. And so I'm trying to raise a man and I don't know how to do that. And so I would tell him, I
Right.
don't know how to teach you to be a man because I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to be a man. But what I can do is tell you what I believe a good man does and what he is, and I can give you the Bible. But Jesus help me. That thought was going to come back to me again. Bless the Lord. Oh, but I would tell him, I said, son, why are you always on the defensive? He said, because I feel like you're attacking me. And so I said, but I'm not attacking you. So one of the things I one of the things I told him and his sister, I said, listen to me. If you ever feel like I'm attacking you or the enemy is lying to you and telling you that I don't love you, that we're not on the same team, that I am not for you, I
Mm-hmm.
need you to know that what you need to do in that moment is to remember what you know about my heart. What do
Exactly.
you actually know about me as your mom? He said, well,
Right.
I know you love me. Exactly. You know I will burn somebody's house down about you. You know that I will
Yes.
fight a bear for you. You know that I
Yes.
will never lead you astray. You know
Right.
that I will never lie to you. You know these things
Mm-hmm.
about me. So it's kind of like the Bible in Ephesians. I think that's Ephesians. No, that's the armor of God. But when God says, be still and know that I am God,
Yes.
Christopher and I were talking about this a couple. ago, I said, it was actually yesterday, when I woke up, I had my Bible time and I was sitting with the Lord, and He said, in the still is where you
Mhm.
know. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, He had said that to me before. But He said, but when you get still, whether your mind is being attacked and all these thoughts come, but when you get still, when you be still and you get into that place where you're like, okay, Lord, in the stillness, you know, because you are remembering the things I've done for you. You are remembering
Right.
your testimonies. You're remembering the words that I have spoken to you. It is in the still moment where you stop. And even in the midst of where you feel like I want to say something back, or I want to get angry because what that person said offended me. But in that moment when you're still and you set your mind to truth, you're gonna remember truth. And that's why it says, and know that I am God. Because see, the
Right.
truth and the testimony, I know that those things are true. Truth is
Yes.
true. And what you've
Yes.
done already, God, that's true. Like nobody can take that from me. So when we are still and we have those moments of just let me just really examine the heart of the person on the other side of this offense. When we look to
Right.
that and then we
Mhm.
decide I'm going to be, even though even if they intended to offend me, I am going to choose to see their heart over
Right.
their actions. And that's how I think we're
That's it.
able to see the spirits that are behind the arguments
Mhm.
in the first place, and those spirits that come
That's
to
right.
try to destroy families and
Mhm.
bloodlines and all of that.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
right. That is
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Mhm.
Well, Mom, before I wrap up, is there anything else you want to share today?
No, I just well, what I want to say is that God is so truly awesome, and no matter what you go through in life, if you keep trusting in God, and if you fall away from each other and something happen, your love through God will bring you back together. And when it does, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Amen. Amen. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, Mama, for loving me. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. I'm excited to continue to do this podcast with you. I'm grateful to God for restoring our relationship and giving me a friend in my mama, and a
Me.
supporter and a prayer warrior. And I just thank you for everything that you've done, that you're doing, and I love you very much.
And I'm so proud of you. I really am so proud of you. You do great things, and you got greater things to, you got greatest heights to reach. So God is in your life, and He's working with you, and you continue to do what God wants you to do. And I love you
Yes, ma'am.
always.
I will. Thank you. I love you
I
forever.
love you more.
All right. Well,
Mm,
this has been the first. Oh, I love you. This has been the first episode of the Recovery Love After Heartbreak. Your hosts, Vivian Bell and Everjuniel Bell, and we will see you guys back next week. God bless you.
all right. God bless you.
The Recovery Life After Heartbreak.